Welcome back to Blues Focus TV. I'm your host Josh. I'm with Pete, the Watford fan. How's it going, Pete?
Oh, yeah, no, it's going all right. We're a Championship football club, so normal levels of crisis, the kind of thing.
So before we go any further, what are your thoughts on the manager change that continues to happen at Watford?
Continues to happen. I think we are now on number 18 since the Potsos joined 10 years ago. So you can do the maths. It's about one every 8 months. It's basically you can conceive and have a child, and Watford will have already changed manager. It's guaranteed. Yeah, the last one we had was Bilic. Everybody understood that. We do a phone-in thing with Do Not Scratch Your Eyes, and we kind of like asked people on the Twitter to put it in. Was it understandable? Were they glad or were they sad? Everybody was, look, we understood this. This was understandable. The problem we've got is that most managers now know if you come to Watford, if you're going to be out in 8 months, if you do well, then I can go in. I won't bother doing much. The players also don't do an awful lot because they go, well, why am I going to listen to you, Mr. Chris Wilder, who's done very well with Sheffield United? You'll be gone in 10 games. So that's the problem we've got. Wilder has got, great credentials, and on paper you'd think great, but he had his first game yesterday and it was an absolute cluster. From start to finish. Nobody knew what they were trying to do. It was disorganized. You can't blame the manager because he's been there for 3 games, but you can see suddenly he's gone in and gone, well, if we're going to do anything, we're going to do it my way. So hopefully when we play you guys, things will be, well, from our point of view, hopefully things will be a little bit more organized and a little bit more cohesive than it was yesterday against QPR, because QPR have, not won. They've won 1 game since November. And we made them look like 1982 Brazil yesterday, and that's a very good side to be compared to. For those people that are going 82, what the hell are you talking about?
I've heard that. I've seen that on Twitter. That's like a theme. If people say you're as good as that team, that's like, from my era, it's probably the Tiki-Taka Barca team.
Yeah,
it's that kind of level, isn't it? So I've definitely heard that before, but I just don't understand. It's almost like they've taken the Chelsea model and thought, we'll do it, but with no cups. That's how it looks like from the outside in. Because Chelsea did that under Roman. You have a short time, you'll win something, you won't do it the season afterwards, and you'll be moved on. And Watford do it, but on a really almost mental basis, because it's like, while we've got that person in,
no.
know what he's going to do. Like Rob Edwards, we knew it's a work in progress. It's a bit like Eustace. It's a work in progress. To then sack him for someone experienced as Bilic, and then move on to Wilder. There's talk and cheese. It's mental.
Well, you know what it's like, because when you've done these with other clubs and people will come in and go, oh, right, I've seen something on the telly 3 months ago about Birmingham City. I know all about you. Wrong. There is a story and there is a nuance that only the followers who go and see your team week in, week out will look at it. I'll come along and go, John Eustace, great. And you'll go, oh my God, he's having a nightmare. And all vice versa, right? Yeah. Our story is, why did we do that? Did we do it the Chelsea way? Was it like Chelsea without the cups? If you go back, Watford's glory period was in the late 70s and early 80s. Graham Taylor, brought in by Elton John. I mean, Graham Taylor is a god at our club. He took us, through 3 divisions up to the top division. We finished runners-up in the 80s. He then came back in the 90s. We were only in the 3rd division, or the 3rd tier as it was there. So he only was able to get promotion twice. Did it again. I mean, he is just God. Elton John, there is only one. We've looked under the sofa. There are no other pop stars who support us, right? So you have to go, look, those were the golden days. When the Potsos came in 2012, we were, absolutely in the same sort of area of operation that you guys have been for the last few years, i.e., kind of a little bit too close to relegation for comfort, and looking up going, well, we want to be aspirational, but we just didn't have the resources. The ground was, was really out of order. It was really, really kind of starting to get a bit ropey. Certainly one side. We ended up with a 3-sided ground for many seasons. The Potsos came in and they've always done this. Their approach to it is, if the coach or they call them head coaches, they don't call them managers. If the head coach comes in, one of two things will happen. They will succeed, in which case somebody like, a big club, or in our case, Everton, not a big club, but, will come in and want your manager. And if they fail, you'll want to get them out the door as painlessly as possible. That's their approach to it. We saw this, but they would normally go for about a season and then they'd make the change, ideally. But suddenly we went, it took them 3 seasons to get us up. But then we stayed in the Premiership for 5 years. We came down, we went back up. We had 6 years in the top flight. We only ever had 6 years under Graham Taylor. We got to an FA Cup final. Yes, Man City rolled us over and pumped us good and proper, but we were there. We'd only ever done that once. Guess who? With Graham Taylor. So whilst it's absolutely fair to say in the last 4 years, they have gone off their nut in terms of just changing constantly. The 8 months has been shrunk, and I'll explain why. It has brought unprecedented levels of success. So we have to say that the ground is great. It's still Vicarage Road. It's a small, compact ground, but it's mint. It's Premier League standard. It's really good. So there's an awful lot to thank our absolute balloonatic, ownership for. However, in the 4 years, I mentioned we came back down. We went back up, we've come back down again, and now we're in that point where we're absolutely catching the cold. Because if you change your manager, as we have done in the last 4 years, 11 times, that's 9-month season. That's once every 3 months, roughly. It allows nothing. A lot of the people who will go, Ismail Assar, as I was just saying to you earlier on, he's a great player, and he's a great player of moments. And if you look at his stats, they're not bad. But when you only see the highlights, you see the 3 minutes or the 2 minutes, or in Ismail Assar's case, the 30 seconds where he devastates somebody down the right-hand side. The rest of the 89.5 minutes, I do more work on behalf of the team. And then you look at it and you go, he's been here 4 years. He has had 11 managers. No wonder he doesn't know his arse from his elbow. So, is it chaotic? Yes. Is it always interesting? Yes. Do we like it being interesting? Sometimes, but hey, it is what it is. You guys know about having a club that's, shall we say, eccentric? You get on with it. And when everybody else,
disgusting at times. We are a team and a club that are bereft of, we're rudderless at times. That's exactly how we're, at least with your ownership, it's because I won't say the word care, that's the wrong word to use. They're having a go. They're playing real life Football Manager, if you want to call it. Our owners don't have a face. No one knows what they look like. They don't want to be there. At least the Pozzo family are giving it a go. It might be a bit naughty. It might be a little bit, some of these deals that they've done and the loans back do seem a little bit fishy. But at least they're trying. At least they're trying to get you back up to the Prem. At least they're having a go. And one thing I did think was telling was the Soccer AM news report, the comedy sketch I did.
Yeah.
Deeney liked that.
You can't not. You can't not.
If Deeney's liking it, he must know this is just a mental circus behind it. It's not like it's awkward. It's just everyone accepts that you've got a short shelf life at Watford. If you don't do amazingly, you're out the door. And if they're very open with that at the start of the conversation with the manager, then the fans have to accept that, well, they know what they're getting into. And I think Blues fans are a bit like that now. Whatever manager comes in, if you don't do very well, you probably got a season and you're getting moved out. But it's normally for someone.
A season, you get a long service medal for a season at Watford. You get a watch and everything. It's bonkers. But I mean, one thing that we absolutely have in common, and everybody at Watford, first of all, yes, Troy Deeney will get there. Yes, John Eustace, we can cover that. But the chairman, or the chairman, he didn't quite own it because he didn't actually have the money. Who the Pozzos took it away from was Lawrence Bassini. Now, Lawrence Bassini was sniffing around your gaff for a while, and we were all going. Everybody saw the TalkSport thing, because he is absolutely, he's off.
I've seen texting fans. His number got taken out by some Blues fans. He was texting them saying, "Meet me in this club. I've got the details." To a point where fans were saying, "We need to leave him alone because this is gone too far. He needs serious help." And we are very similar, I would say. Blues and Watford share similarities with the ownerships that we've had, but that's the similarities change. Squad is much better than ours, so you should be turning us over. I think
he was stopped by a member of staff opening his own safe on the day when we were minutes away, because he was having it away on his toes. The guy's changed his name because he's just a nightmare. Anyway, you know that we're very, very pleased that, and I appreciate everything you're going through, but that would have only made things worse. It would have been like trying to put out a fire with petrol.
100%.
Much more importantly is, you know, we were all delighted genuinely when Troy Deeney went to leave the Blues, went to leave Watford, and was going back to his boyhood club, because there, you know, I'm old, but there's a romantic in every football fan, and going back to your boyhood club is just something that's special. And everybody went, oh, we get that. He left. I mean, obviously he had the whole kind of, you know, the thing going through Nick and what have you, and he came out, and there were still some people that he had to convince, because he hadn't been setting the world alight properly before he went in, but he came out, and nobody has had a level of redemption like he has, and he came in and more than paid back what was owed to him in terms of the loyalty that the Pozzos and the owners, and initially Gianfranco Zola gave him by saying, you'll be my 7th level striker. And he went, all right, give me a fortnight. It took him about a week and a half, and he was starting the next game. And he's, you know, so we're delighted that he's with you. And we hope that he kind of continues to pull up trees in, obviously, what are his twilight years of his football career. But, you know, so
I missed the idea of having Deeney 10 years ago, because I think he would, the level of pressure he carries now, he would carry it then, and he would actually be able to deliver more. I mean, if you look at his stats, he scored 7 goals this season. Like, for a team that don't really score a lot of goals, you can't knock him. I have no ill feeling towards Deeney at all. I love watching him play. Do I think he could do more? Yeah, but is he at the wrong end of his career? So you have to give him dispensations. Do I think he could have put more of a shift in? No. I think he's done exactly what I expected. Do I expected more goals in the first season? Yeah, but he come to us without a pre-season. He come to us bit part player for you for probably 18 months before that. So we started to see the best of him towards the end of last season, maybe a little bit of start of this season. This start of the season, he looked 10 times better. He looked trim. He'd been working in Cyprus a lot. You could tell. But as soon as the World Cup hit, he had that little dip. It's natural. I mean, I'm 32. If I don't walk around, I'm stiff anyway. So, you know,
hold on. I'll see you and I'll raise you. Okay.
You can't expect him to be a Ferrari at his age. You can't. And what he's given to the club, I can't knock it. I wish it was in better circumstances, I do, but I think the move worked for all of us, really. What we miss with Deeney, sorry to cut across you, what we miss with Deeney is what he does in the dressing room. Yes, because 100%. You know, we were chatting to Zach the other day on our show, and we kind of said, look, because of this complete turnover of managers and stuff, and this constant revolution that goes on at Watford, there were kids who were like, you know, if you were 21 or younger, Deeney was the only constant you had known, you know, all the way through. And when he did go to you, there was a lot of the youngsters who were like, you know, you could almost see them going, what's Watford without Troy? Watford is Troy. But what we missed immediately in those seasons afterwards is the leadership in the dressing room. Somebody who would turn around, and I appreciate, because I've read when he was having some kind of, when you were having some tough times, and he doesn't hide. He'll come on social media, and there were a lot of people going, yeah, well, next time, bloody put a shift in, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't hide. His family are all Blues. He's got a Blues tattoo on his leg. And he lives a stone's throw from the ground, and he still lives within the area. He moved to Blues because it was the right time for him, but he also had a caveat. I know I've got a shoulder more responsibility now than I ever have. When you think about him being Mr. Watford, he's now Mr. Birmingham City on the fan side and the playing side and the club side and the ownership side. He's everywhere. And for some people, they can't deal with that. They can't understand why he doesn't do more. Simple fact is genetics. He's too old to do anymore. He does the best he can. And I don't understand the hate. I've never have understood the hate, because if he was 25, I'd be the same. I want more. He's not 25 anymore. He's just not. He can only do so much. And if he does a little bit of TV here and there, it might raise our profile slightly. I'm okay with that. It's just, it is what it is.
10 years ago, he scored 20 goals in the Championship in the 3 years it took us to go up. I think he scored something like 23, 26 and 25. But then you looked at his assists, and they were also through the roof. You looked at him playing alongside, if anybody remembers, Matty Vidra,
Yeah.
He left Burnley last season, but he had 2 seasons with us where the 2 of them were just unplayable, absolutely unplayable in the Championship. Joyous moments, but there we go.
Sadly, I don't think he'll be playing Tuesday. I think he's got a hamstring injury. And to be fair, at his age, slowly. Come back slowly. I don't want to have another injury again and potentially not have him next season because it's up in the air. I think he's got a year option maybe, but he's technically out of contract at the end of the season. I have a sneaky suspicion he might move to America. I've got no proof of that, but my assumption, he might have one last hurrah in the sun. We might go, no, I want to go again at Blues. Personally, I would be happy with either. If he stays, brilliant. If he goes, thanks. It was nice while it lasted.
Fair play.
How do you think the game will go?
Because we had this game yesterday at QPR, a lot of the fans are. I mean, there's potentially talk of, unrest. No, not Wilder out, but the Potsos, there's genuine talk about grumblings about that. As I mentioned, we run a phone in, and yesterday was the first time that it was kind of universal. But that's on Twitter, so what the online community say and what everybody in the stadium do could be very different. Who knows? But the problem is because we've got Wilder coming in, he hasn't had time. He was brought in on Tuesday. So he's had 3 days to prep them for a championship game. He's going to have another day. He's not going to get into them an awful lot more. Our hope is that we see a response. If we do see a response, a proper response, we have the quality and the firepower to do an awful lot more than we've done. But we haven't scored in 4.5 hours. And we have got firepower that should embarrass the Championship. I don't mean to sound arrogant when I say that because they're not bloody doing it. But we should have Pedro is a hell of a player. He's the one who always puts in a shift. Come hell or high water, Newcastle or somebody going to come and sniffle him for a load of money. Keenan Davis. He's only scored 4 goals all season, but can be, if he decides, a monster up front. Sarr, if he turns it on for 30 seconds, can rip everybody a new one. It's just a question of quite who turns up, how they turn up, and if they're looking at Wilder going, well, I've only got to listen to you until the kind of beginning of May, or if they turn around and go, yes, we've got to do something because otherwise the even the thought of the playoffs is completely out of kilter. Everybody yesterday's gone, we ain't going up because we're just not good enough. And this team haven't got the character to do it. So in terms of it, I think we could, if we score the first goal, I think we'll take it. But if you get us, if you get a goal against us, QPR did a great job on us by outworking, outfighting and pressing us up high. And we didn't cope with it for a minute. We were absolutely shocking. So if you do that, that's your best chance, I would suggest.
Well, on the previous game, I was at the game, I season goal at the Blues. And my biggest takeaway from that game was, if it was Rob Edwards or it was the players, you tried so many crossfield balls that went out for a throw that it's become comical. Blues fans are almost like encouraging the crossfield ball out of play, and we've got the game. We've probably had 3 or 4 games in where we've looked really good. The 2 games against Baggies, the comeback against Swansea, and probably this game where it just clicked. We looked really good and we were not scared by you. We're not intimidated by you, and we were happy to take it to you, and we probably should have won the game.
You absolutely should have done.
The problem release that striker. What's the reason behind that?
Which one? What, Manai?
So, Majarov, is he scored?
Well, if you look at it, it came off of his right buttock, and he knew absolutely sod all about it.
I watched the replay. It was a little bit of a quick stick it out there. Well, I'll claim it, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, if he put away a 6-yard chance, he would consider it a long range opportunity. He came in from Barcelona B, right? And everybody hears the Barcelona. Watford fans hear the B at the end because he wasn't up to it, and we went through, and this is probably what's done for Bilic. We had and I appreciate everybody gets injuries. We had 16 first team squad players out at one stage, and therefore nothing could be done. We had 6 midfielders out. We went and got Bacuna, Leandro Bacuna, obviously. Kind of. I think he trained with you guys earlier on in the season
for a while, for a few months. I think we kept him in there, like ticking over.
And so we went and got him. He got a hamstring. Yeah, we had games against Norwich where we had, I think it was 4 players went down with hamstring. It was just ridiculous. We've started to get them all back, so we've got half a chance. In that game, we have to thank you hugely because we played you before the window shut, and Newcastle were in for Yao Pedro. Yeah. And we'd been on the what's it called, loaded mags, the big one up there, and they came on and said, well, tell us about him. And we were like, oh God, we thought we were going to lose Sarr. We knew we were going to lose Emmanuel Dennis, and but your guys, Newcastle, know what you're doing because he's the player. And we then played you that night, and he had a stinker. He had an absolute rotten game. And he was one of the ones who was trying to do too much. He was trying to play it like he was a quarterback. And it was just, no. And suddenly, Newcastle go for Isaacs. So we were like, oh, happy day. So cheers for that. We'll keep that. But yeah, no, Manai, he was rubbish. We've had a new technical director come in. He didn't get along well with Bilic. And we've had all sorts of things. Rob Edwards wasn't properly supported. We had a bit of a hissy fit when Rob Edwards was jettisoned, even though the football under him was, the game against you was not was. Yeah, that was pretty good example of it.
Equal. It was an equal game. That's why I think Blues fans took it as we've got a chance here because we're equal with pretty much a Prem team. But this is Blues in a nutshell. We play better against teams above us than we do teams below us. The way we set up against Wigan was not like we set up against Watford or Baggies. We set up so negative. And then that happens with inexperienced managers. They start to not want to lose games, which means you end up probably losing the game. Not trying to win a game instead of not trying to lose a game are 2 different mentalities. And I think Blues have been suffering from that. And I wonder if Wilder starts to think like that because Wilder is a one-trick pony. We know that. But the trick is very good. His centre halves like to overlap. It's very common the way he wants to play. Can your squad handle the way he wants to play, as in Sheffield United? I'm not sure.
The irony is that Rob Edwards, when he was our first manager, Bilic was our second, and now we've got Wilder. Rob Edwards wanted to play 3 at the back. He wanted to play 3-5-2. That's what he'd done at Forest Green Rovers. Yeah. And we wouldn't get him a right wing back. He ended up playing Hassan Kamara, who is a completely left-sided player on the right, and he kept playing him there, and so people did get frustrated because we did have other options, but we were also getting frustrated with the ownership because we know he needs it. Go and get him a right wing back, and then you can let last year's player of the season go across to the other side again. But no, so there was, it was clearly that they weren't supporting him. Then we bring Bilic in. And he plays a flat back 4. So, okay, we're playing 4-2-3-1, no matter what. But we haven't scored in so long. He won't play 2 up front. But then we bring in a right wing back when he doesn't want a right wing back. He wants a midfielder, a forward, and a winger. So it's like, so we've done again some changes. We got the new technical director. Now we switch back to somebody who wants to play a back 3. Needless to say, that wing back is still injured. So it's a confused muddle at the moment. When Chris Wilder came in, he said lazy people will tell you that we just play 3-5-2, but I've actually played 4-3-3. I played these. Blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, we played 3 at the back. Did it look comfortable? No, not especially. But the first times, it might not. But bearing in mind, he's been brought in because it's a roll of the dice. It's a Hail Mary throw up, kind of Hail Mary pass to try to see. Let's not give it up because we were going nowhere. The football was just, we just looked completely uncoached under Bilic. Nothing. We might look all right at the back. We might be sort of okay in the middle, and then we get to the final third, and nobody did anything. It was just rudderless.
Sound like Baggies fans. I think Baggies fans went like that towards the end of his time there. I think it was. I like him. I think he's a good manager. He speaks really well on punditry, but I don't know if he can enact it in the jobs he's been at since the Baggies, really. I think it's a shame for him because I don't know where he goes after this. I don't know if England is his option. I think he might have to go abroad again.
Well, all the Baggies fans were saying he'll play 4-2-3 come hell or high water. Tick. He won't play more than 1 up front. Tick. I mean, even in the last game where he hadn't scored, and the local journalist basically in the local paper said to him explicitly, "Do you not think playing 2 up front would be okay?" He said, "We did for the last 5 minutes." Like that answered the question. Yeah. So
they know more than we do. Like, I'm not being funny. Like fans nowadays have so much access to stats and to videos, and I'm not being funny. A goal can be scored, and within 3 minutes, it's all over Twitter being picked apart. it does annoy me when managers try to make out because they've played the game or because they've got a little bit of paper that they know more than the paying public that are watching it week in, week out. We can see when something doesn't work. It's very flipping obvious. Blues in the last game, for example, 3 young lads in the midfield, and you're asking them to sit deep. Guess what happens? They get scared and they lump it. And guess what? It comes back quicker. If you just let them play the way they were the first half against a team that can't score away from home, you don't have the worry. Fans don't get on players' backs, and the atmosphere is nice. Atmosphere now has gone back from, I generally believe in our fan base coming into this game, more fans are annoyed with the second half performance than we were against losing to Blackburn at the start of the season. We lost the game, and every fan I saw was buzzing because this is an improvement. We took a game to a team that's well better than us, and we kept our heads high. We won a game, and fans generally, myself included, were annoyed because for 45 minutes, they wasted my time. I didn't need to be there because they didn't want to try and win a game. And for me, as a football fan, I'm not Kevin Keegan kind of style, but you can't help but like the Kevin Keegan style. We'll score more than you because it's entertainment. The first thing about football is you want to be entertained. The jeopardy is what keeps you ticking over. It keeps you coming back for more. When you're shutting up shop, there's no jeopardy. You know what's going to happen. At some point, they're going to break or you might run out of time. That's the only kind of, if you want to call it jeopardy, that you've got. And I just don't understand why managers try and reinvent the wheel. Just be honest and just say, look, this is why I'm doing it, and I'm being belligerent.
No, I can't agree with you more. And it's, as I say, I've got a bit of an FA sort of background and coaching and coach education background. But the thing is that, I mean, you say you're 32. Chances are you've been watching wall-to-wall football from Sky and analysis and football from around the world for a good 20 years. You know what? If you sat and watched Game of Thrones for 20 years, do you know what you become an expert in? Game of fucking Thrones, you know,
pretty much.
Why shouldn't that opinion be kind of like valid? So no, I agree with you completely. That's why we do phone-ins and various stuff just to hear what everybody is saying.
Media is the way to go because we talk passionately and honestly. You know, both of us coming to this game now, kind of expecting both our teams to let us down. And, you know, for Blues to lose against Watford, it's not the end of the world, is it? It's not a big shock. You know, we're 18th, you're 11th. It's kind of one of them. But if we beat you, that's going to be more annoying. But I think if we win, I think our relegation fight's over. I think we're probably safe. 10 points now, add another 3 on that. I can't see the bottom 3 winning on Tuesday or Saturday, to be fair. I think their run of games are hard. What's your realistic expectations for Watford? Where do you think you're going to finish, and where would you have liked to finish at the start of the season?
I think the theory with Wilder was our first 3 games would have been against QPR. We've already said where they were. You guys have not been firing on all cylinders, I think it's fair to say. And then Wigan. Now, if we'd have got 3 points on Saturday, and a feel-good factor and a new manager bounce, we'd have been looking upwards. As it is, the vast majority of fans are saying it's gone. We won't make the playoffs, and in some ways, the worst thing we could do is make the playoffs. You know, and you'll be, you know, kind of sexually assaulted by the FA over price tickets and stuff, and the normal stuff. Oh, you've got through to a game that you care about. This suddenly got costing £100 this ticket. I'll go figure. How do you do it and make a profit? It's so realistically, we just want to see an upturn. We want to see players who actually give a shit, to be quite frank. But the problem is whether or not we do get promoted, and we won't. We don't think we will do. But Wilder's been bought in with one ticket. Get us into the playoffs and see if you can make it, instead of 11 games, 14 games, and see if you can get us up. Because we've hocked our because we only went up for a year and then down. You only get 2 years worth of parachute payment. They've already hocked next year's. So we've got 5 players, you know, in and around the first team squad who are lone players. Well, they'll be going out. We'll be losing Yao Pedro and losing Ismail Assar. So this is a kind of a shit or bust kind of moment, really. And thereafter, we might be looking at, you know, kind of you guys after you came down after the, you know, the League Cup win and all of those kind of glory days, finding it very hard to be able to find a way to get back up again. And we'll be hoping that...
lose 12 consecutive seasons in the Championship, and to be brutally honest, that first season when we come down with Houghton was probably the best. And then we had a little, upturn when Che and Duke were playing well under Monk, but then EFL tried to hit us with a load of points deductions and stuff. So yeah, it's not fun when your club kind of let you down time and time again. But we keep coming back that way. We're all suckers for that little bit of a boost whenever we can.
We all want a little bit of our club back. We had some youth players come in during that injury crisis, and that was lovely. One of them scored on, and I appreciate, obviously, because of his associations with Villa, you're not going to like him. I mentioned him, obviously, Graham Taylor. We have a Graham Taylor game on the anniversary of his death. He died at the age of 72, and a young lad called Toby Adeyemo came in and scored the first goal against Blackpool on the 72nd minute on that game. Probably the highlight of the season for the men's team, as far as we're concerned. So, that beating Luton.
What's been your best moment of this season? So I'm assuming it's that.
Well, I was going to say, it's either that or, really, it's got to be beating Luton 4-0 cleanly and easily. The highlight of Bilic's era. But again, when I said about scoring the first goal, we scored in the first 2.5 minutes. And we were suddenly on the uppers, and we cut loose that day. And we'd had 2 games, one away against Blackpool, where they'd done us 3-1, and we'd lost 3-0 at Millwall. And we have been absolutely rank awful both games. But this was the time when they turned it around, because they had to. It's what we're hoping as a response we might get on Tuesday night. But we've got players who don't do kind of kickbacks against this sort of thing.
I know that feeling. What's your best memory as a fan of Watford?
Oh, crying out loud. At my age, crying out, you really are hoping for this now. Probably 1984. We, in our first season in the top flight ever, we finished runners-up to the classic Liverpool side, pipping Man United into 3rd by beating Liverpool at home on the last day, 2-1, to get the runners-up spot. We went into we played in the UEFA Cup, and never had we played in Europe before, and we haven't since. We went away, and because Luther Blissett, another god at Watford, he went off to AC Milan for £1 million in the days when that was like, wow. We signed a couple of players, and we got to the cup final that season, but it's not that I'm referring to. But they weren't there in time for the UEFA Cup. So we had all of the kids. We had the reserve team who'd been coming up for the last few. But because Watford was such a family club, everybody sort of knew them. And we lost 3-1 away at Kaiserslautern. We brought them back. And again, with, I say a youth team, we had Nigel Callaghan and we had John Barnes in that side. So it wasn't devoid of quality. but we beat them 3-0. And it was it was monumental. It's either that or doing Wolves when we were 2-0 down in the FA Cup semi-final. And Gerard Deulofeu hit the most stunning goal we've ever seen, and then Troy got the 90th minute equaliser with a penalty.
It gives me. I wanted that for Blues. I wanted that moment where he could recreate it, but in a Blues top. And unfortunately, it hasn't happened thus far. But it is. That's the one thing. That moment, it still gives me chills now. And weirdly, I heard on a podcast, Harry Kane was on the pitch at that day. Harry Kane was on the pitch, and some reason
he was on the bench, as was Vardy. They played David Nugent instead of Harry Kane and Vardy. But they were there, as was Nigel Pearson, one of our many managers. I mean, in fairness, you probably got an evens chance of there being an ex-manager now on our bench for them at that time. That was astonishing. That moment, that goal. I mean, we are called "Do Not Scratch Your Eyes" because of the iconic nature of that moment. And most people, when I ask them, what's your best game, I always say, and take out the Leicester game and take out the Wolves semi-final game, because that forces them to think about it. And I always have one stored that's not the obvious. So go figure.
I'm the same. I think my favourite game is not the League Cup, because it's always tinged with sadness. It's when Savage come back for Blackburn in the Prem. It's the most hostile environment I've ever experienced. Even to a point where my dad turned to me and said, "I want no bad language today, lad." I said, "Right, okay, no worries." Within 3 minutes, my dad's losing his mind. My dad's quite level-headed. My mates will say this. I go, "Your dad don't lose his head." He did then. He gives Savage a load of abuse. He looked at me and went, "Don't tell your mum." I was like, "It's football, Dad. Anything goes at football."
But in fairness, Savage did explain why he wanted to move closer to his parents, which is why he moved further away from them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, complete sense.
Yeah. Go figure. Go figure.
Last question. I want to push you for a score on the game.
I'll say we'll take it 2-1. We bought in a couple in the last transfer window. We bought in a couple of decent centre backs, but they have now dropped to the level of the rest of the team. But they've also had to go from a 4 into a 3. So confusion potentially sort of reigns in that respect. So hey, I'll be optimistic and say we'll win 2-1. And everybody from Watford who's looking at this going, cool, you're open, aren't you? So
we'll see. I probably would agree with that, to be fair. I've got a couple of past head-to-heads I'm just going to throw at you. So we played, obviously, this season, 1-1. The game after that was 2021, 3-0 win to Watford. Game after that was in 2020, 1-0 to Watford. But then after that...
Was that the one where Deeney scored and threw his boots into the travelling Blues?
I don't know that one, but there's one. 18th of the 4th, 2015. It was a 1-0 win to Watford. Do you know who scored that goal?
Craig Cathcart.
Yes. I was expecting to catch you out there because he's still in the squad, isn't he?
No. He got a volley and he swiveled and hit it. Yeah, no, sorry. I am that much of an anorak. Sorry about that.
I was trying to see if I could catch you out on that one, but well.
No.
Like me, I'm a little bit like that. Keep them little things ticked up in there just in case.
Well, I did say to Zach, but more Blues fans will hear this. There was a game where we beat you guys at Vicarage Road 1-0. Deeney scored. And Deeney he's just an absolute legend at Watford. End of. Anybody who says anything else is an idiot as far as I'm concerned. And he served us good and proper. He scored 1-0 and has won the game. And you guys are giving him rapturous applause. And he goes up and he takes his, he walks to you because he would always do the ground. I'm sure he does it at your place because fundamentally he's a supporter and he appreciates what's going on. And he took his boots off and threw them into the crowd. And of course, not knowing quite what was going on, it was like, oh Christ, it's a bit of a loving. So it was like, so you've scored against them, they've cheered you, and now you're throwing your clothes to them. There you go. So that's why we thought it was a lovely romantic thing when he came to you, and I hope he does well.
Out for it, though. Since we lost Jude, which was always going to happen, like watching that boy play for us. I will talk about Jude Bellingham at any point. I as a 32-year-old man, I love him like he's my own child. And he's not. I know he's not. But when he scored that goal, his first goal for Blues, which was a complete deflection against Stoke, it filled me with the happiness that was almost the same as the League Cup. Because we've had so much rubbish with this ownership. That little moment, seeing a 16-year-old live my dream of scoring at the Tilton where I sit, that is the peak of the whole ownership of our club for the current owners. That moment of letting a 16-year-old score a deflected goal, and that's the level of what we're expecting as Blues fans. So when we come into games against former Prem teams, if we can score, we're happy. That's where we're at. So I think 2-1's a fair score line, but I am going to throw my pence in there and say 1-1, just because I can't back us to lose. I can't do it, but I would take a draw now and I'd be over the moon. And I think our mentality would change. I think we would be quite calm with all the relegations. But I think if you lose and Wilder's gone 2 back-to-back losses, that Wigan game is so important for you because Wigan are a very poor team, but they love the ball. Blues give them 72% possession. So if you lose to us, that puts so much pressure on Wilder to go and get a result at the bottom of the league because you should be beating that team. You should be beating us, really. On paper.
I think the pressure is already on him, not in a sacking way, but he's been brought in to do a job. We were already in 10th. You've got to go on a run. And it's no point. There's no point having a great system that's going to take the lads 4 games to learn because it's gone by then.
And he's not the Wilder from Sheffield United anymore. He's the Wilder that failed at Borough. So that stock has dropped a bit. So he's not the same person.
We were speaking to Borough, and they were, their actual comments on him were he was playing wonderful football, but in the pre-season his head got turned with the talk of Burnley, and you know, it went, and we've seen that with Marco Silva when Everton came sniffing around. You know, you know, so it happens. But you're right. It is a failed managerial appointment for whatever reason. He's got an incentive to go in and do it. But I think there is that, what we mentioned earlier on. There's that caveat, which is it's Watford. It's bonkers. Yeah. Anything might happen, and we're not going to judge a CV based on what those schizoids do down there. We being the schizoids. So there you go.
Well, that's it, mate. Thank you so much. It's the longest I've done so far, but I'm not surprised because both of us can talk for ages about football. So just want a reminder for everyone to follow Blues Focus TV on all the socials that we have, and let's look out for the game on Tuesday. And fingers crossed, we both can come away with some sort of positiveness. I know at some point one of our teams will let us down. They always do. So yeah, thank you all for joining, and yeah, keep right on.